Welcome back to Bookmates with Shelley.
And Yvonne. Hi, guys.
So we're coming back with book number 3 in the Throne of Glass series.
Yes.
Heir of Fire. And we get introduced to new characters in this one.
Yes. A lot of things are happening.
And then we're getting new characters and the flow of the story shifts because now we're seeing different point of views.
Yes.
As we go.
And a lot of storylines are going to start, different storylines are going to start, being introduced to the way that the books are being written.
I would say Heir of Fire is the entire book is foreshadowing.
Yes, it's one of my favorites.
It is one of my favorites. I do. I feel like we needed book 1 and 2 to build Celaena's story.
Yes.
And if you remember, where we left off in book 2 is that we discovered that Celaena is Aelin Galathanus.
Galathanus. I think.
I kept saying
we're going to go with that. Okay.
We'll go with it. And who is the rightful heir of
the throne,
queen?
Yes, of Terrasen.
Yes. And we'll go into that a little bit more later in the episode. But yes. I think how we decided we're going to break this episode up because there's a lot of new characters and they each have their own storyline. That's how we're going to take it.
Yes.
So the first new character that was introduced is Manon.
Yes.
Of the Black Beak Witches.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the witches start coming forward a lot in this book.
Yes.
And for me, when I started this book, the first time I read it, it was very interesting because we were accustomed in the first 2 books to be reading mostly Aelin's point of view.
Yes. Celaena / Aelin.
Yes. And then now we get introduced to these new characters, and then there's, chapters in between, you want to keep reading. I'm like, oh, wait, no. Okay. And I have to be very, and Shelley felt the same way as me. When we started reading this one, I kind of got irritated with the witches. And I was still like...
And the back and forth.
Yes. And I was like, I don't understand why. I'm very lost,
Well, and I think, too, we just discovered that Celaena is actually Aelin. And then her story really moves forward.
Yes, it does.
And we're so attached to her. We're like, why do we have these other characters? Yes. I don't really want to read about these other characters. Yeah. I'm not interested in them. Why are you interrupting my flow?
And the way that we also left book number 2, we left Broccolini learning who she was,
Yes.
And
he sent her off to
protect her
on a king's errand because he didn't want the king to discover that she had magic and she was fae
and all of that.
So we're going to follow her as she goes into Wendelin. But let's go into Manon. What was your first impression of Manon?
So my first impression of her was someone that was trying to be super tough, but had, she had a conscience.
Yeah. And if you remember when we were talking about Baba Yellowlegs, who was introduced in the last book.
Yes.
She was an Iron Teeth.
As well. Yeah.
Yes, as well. And I had that in my head when we got introduced to Manon.
Yeah, with the chicken legs. And Manon doesn't have chicken legs.
Well, Baba was also super old.
Yeah.
But Manon is, how old did they say she was? 100 or
no, more. Yeah. 200. Yeah, 200 or 300. Yeah.
Old. And we find out that the witch's magic was null.
Yes,
as well. So not only did the fae and all that magic leave them, it also left the witches.
Well, the witches actually don't have a lot of magic. They can only channel magic one time.
But they can fly.
Yes, they can fly.
And they couldn't fly.
Yes, yes.
Which brings us to them picking out wyverns.
Yes.
So to rewind a little bit and make it more concise. All of these witch clans, there's 3 different ones.
Yes.
Well, actually, there's more than that. But 3 were
are introduced in this book. Yeah.
And we talked about Duke Harrington. Yes. And he is building this army in Morath
for the king.
And he's gathering the witches to lead it.
Yes.
And another Hunger Games style. It kind of felt more to me like Fourth Wing style, but because of the wyverns.
I agree. And the way that they had to like do things,
they had to compete against one another to whoever was going to lead the army.
Yep.
And so we learn about Manon. We learn about her 13, which is these are her
squad. Squad.
Yeah. And they are tough, and they are 100% loyal to her.
Yes.
And will do anything for her.
They're very brutal too, the way that they describe them. And also we learned that they're actually they're going through all of these things because they were they had been promised to a piece of land that it used to be theirs, but later on, we'll find out what happened with that piece of land and the witches.
Yes.
And they're dealing with these humans.
Yeah.
That for them, it's like super like low of the lowest.
Yes.
In order for them, they're actually, they're focused on a goal,
yeah. And Manon, when she was introduced, I felt like she was a darker version of Aelin.
I can see that.
She had the same kind of arrogance,
drive,
and power, and just everybody better than everybody, but not in that snobbish way, but in a I'm badass.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the best way. Yeah, that's the best way to describe her. Yeah,
and she does. She comes off being very ruthless, but we see that she has a heart.
Yes.
And
that's very frowned upon in the witches.
Especially with her grandmother, who is the lead of the Blackbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Blackbeat. What do they call her?
The matron.
Matron.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were 3 matrons.
Yes.
For each clan.
Yes. And she was the most ruthless. And she really kind of raised her witches to not have a heart.
Yeah.
That was it. It.
The crueler you were, the better for her.
Yeah.
That was and the way that they're also introduced, when you get to meet them and get to know them, it's almost like you cannot let your guard down at any moment because, it's like you don't know who you might have to kill tomorrow,
Yeah. So we kind of watch the dynamics between the clans. We kind of learn more about Manon. Each witch picks a wyvern.
That's a dragon.
Do you say wyvern or wyvern?
Wyvern.
Okay, I say wyvern.
Okay. Again, you know something?
I don't know.
We should do an episode only of how Shelley pronounced it and how Yvonne pronounced it.
I know.
I think that will be super interesting.
I know.
Like in between.
Well, yeah, it's so funny. Well, when you listen, so it's wyvern.
Yeah, wyvern. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be a hard one for me to fix.
You can say wyvern.
I'm gonna say wyvern.
Okay.
Agree to disagree on that.
Yes, ma'am.
So she picks the wyvern.
Yes, she picks.
She picks. So there's another. What was the yellow?
The yellow legs.
Yellow, is that the other one that had the... I should have written all these characters' names down and I forget.
There are a lot of characters.
There's a lot of characters, a lot of names that I don't remember all of them.
We promise for the next one we'll have the names of the... But...
I'll put it in the notes.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
These are all the witches.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's some competition and they're kind of fighting for this one really strong wyvern.
Yes.
That is going to catch me up every time now.
Yes, because that one is like the epitome. And for example, each witch, they have to almost a wyvern as well has to see if they're worthy enough to be able to ride them, you know?
So very much if you read Fourth Wing, very similar to that. I mean, they have to pick kind of each other.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bond there.
Yeah. And so she goes after this one that the one that's supposed to be the best, and there's a bait set up and with another wyvern that's supposedly lesser than.
Yes.
And she ends up kind of having a heart for that one. Somehow she connects with that one, which is where we see that, oh, she's not as tough as she is.
And she connects to him because the thought process of her, and that was something that really got to me.
Yeah.
You know, she was saying, it's like, he knows he's not the biggest, he knows he's not the strongest, but he is, you know, he is fighting till the end.
Yeah.
He will go down, you know, fighting until the last moment.
Well, and he had scars and things showing that he had fought in previous ones and kind of and he's chained up.
Yes, exactly.
So the fact that he's kind of winning and not giving up, she just felt for him. So they end up pairing up as, how do you say his name?
Abraxas. Yes.
I think I said it's Brexus or something like that. I told you I'm going to add sounds. What is it?
Abraxas.
Yes. So,
and the way that I pictured him like, if anybody has little kids, you know how to train your dragon.
I pictured that too.
Toothless. That's how I pictured him.
Yeah.
You know, but then I've seen some, you know, and yeah. That I really like that relationship.
Yes, I like that relationship too, because she kind of, he was weak. Remember, he wouldn't really fly and extend.
And that's the
wings.
other thing. They bring these dragons to them, because they used to be able to fly with, and they couldn't because of the magic was all gone. Yeah. So for them to be able to fly again, that's something, that's something very important for the witches. Important. Yes.
And Manon ends up dressing him with armor. Yes. She goes and we'll find out more about these spiders, these weird spiders that weave this very expensive silk that is impenetrable.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And she puts that on his wings.
Yes.
And really makes to help him out, which was, again, a little heartfelt thing. Yes. So I'm trying to think what else.
And it's important to know that her grandma was completely against her.
Yes.
And they were
against her getting him.
Getting Abraxas. And then they were it was almost like they were seeing her as being very weak, because she was picking, the smallest one, and they had to, the coven, the ones that were practicing the most were the ones that are gonna come on top.
Yeah.
So Manon waited until the very, very end because Abraxas wasn't having it. He's like, look, dude, I cannot do what you want me to do. But she kept, she kept fighting for him.
She did. She fought for him. And then we see her heart open up a little bit more and sacrifice for another witch, if you remember.
Yes.
Was kind of attacked by...
Petra.
Yeah, Petra was attacked by that other one, which I can't think of her name.
She's horrible.
Yeah. And her wyvern was going down, and... It was this whole thing, and Manon ends up saving Petra.
Yes.
And
Petra Blue Blood.
Yes. Blue Blood. That was the other one.
That was it. Viste? Wow.
So again, there's all these things that keep coming up in this whole, I won't go into all the details, but.
And it was funny because, when we were texting and talking, I was like, I feel like I'm reading a completely different book.
Yes.
Because, all of a sudden, you have me talking about ghosts and Elena and all that, and then I'm like, what? How is this? Yeah.
So to finish that one out, that one ends with she does end up winning these games,
yes,
and she does become leader of
the leader of
this whole army or whatever.
Yeah.
And then are we introduced to Elide
No,
in this
Elide.
one? It'll be the next one.
Yeah, Elide comes in Queen of Shadows.
Okay, yeah.
In book number 4 of the series.
Okay, yeah, because this was just all the training before, because they're not
Yes.
really at Morath
No,
yet.
not yet.
Okay. So, anything else about that? Or you want to move on?
Yep.
And the next storyline that we follow in this one is Dorian and Kale.
Yes.
And through this one, you know, we left off in the last book, Dorian has magic, and Kale in this one finds out that Dorian has magic.
Yes.
And Dorian meets a healer,
this healer,
Sorsha.
Yes.
And they kind of hit it off.
Yeah.
They're bonding. She learns of his magic and is feeding him iron supplements.
Yeah, she kind of knew a little bit because she was the one that they called when in the second and the first book when they needed to heal Aelin.
Yes.
She was the one that came in to so she knew something was happening.
She knew something was happening.
You know?
And I didn't know how to trust her in the beginning.
I did, yeah.
I was like, I don't know how I feel. I felt in my gut that she was placed there for a reason.
Yes.
Like a spy.
I was a little skeptical in the beginning because I felt that Dorian was in a very like precarious place. He, you know, he used to be with Aelin in the beginning. Then Broccolini comes like, oh, I'm your friend, but whatever. Yeah. He goes and gets his girl. Porque eso fue lo que pasó. That's what happened.
Whatever she said.
Yeah. And then Dorian and Kale, they're still in this place. Their friendship is not...
They're not as close because Dorian calls him out on it.
Yes, he does. He does. And I was like a little bit of backbone. I love it. Yes. Yeah. And I appreciate that of Dorian.
Because you just gave me the quote. What was the quote that he said? Like you...
Yes, you cannot. It's almost
pick and choose which version to love.
Of her to love. Yes, exactly. And I'm like, thank you, Dorian. Like, see, that's why I love him more than Broccolini.
I mean,
yeah. Okay.
He was more loyal. He wasn't wishy washy like Kale was.
No.
So then we get introduced to Aiden.
Yes.
Ash Shriver. Did I say that right?
Nina, see.
And do we say Aiden or Aiden?
Aiden. Yes. So Aiden, he is Aelin's cousin.
And he's also the king's general.
Yes. Remember when in a previous episode we were talking that even though Kale was the king, the guard, ¿cómo se dice? The captain of the guard, of the king's guard. He wasn't the one that was sent to do all the things.
That's right.
It was Aiden. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
So we get introduced to him. What was your first impression of him?
I liked him. I mean, he had a cockiness like Aelin. Mm-hmm. That's who I thought of. And I didn't really know, okay, how are we going to trust him? Yeah. I didn't know what side because he was pretending to be the king's general through and through. And he was ruthless and
in the beginning, we don't know a lot.
Kale doesn't like him. Dorian doesn't like him.
I didn't like him a lot in the beginning.
I didn't like him either.
Because for me, the way that the way that he was portrayed, he was very much like, oh, I am here and blah, blah, blah. And then, but it was almost like smoke bombs for me, you know?
Yeah.
And then we find out that he has been working with the rebels.
Yes. And then specifically Ren and Murtaugh, who also were from Terrasen.
Yes.
And were lords or something, right?
Yes.
So we learn that they're all working together. Kale discovers this too and kind of follows him and finds this out. And then Aiden was going to kill Kale.
Yes.
And then Kale drops the bomb that Aelin is actually
alive.
And in Wendelin.
Yes.
And it's this big thing. So then they all start working together. And at that point, there was this infatuation with Aelin. This is how I read it from Aedion, and it kind of felt incestual.
It was super creepy, pero super creepy vibes.
And I kept like, wait a second, is he wanting to marry Aelin? And they're like first cousins.
No.
This is weird. Yeah. Which everybody's kind of related in some way over there, all the Fae. But because they all come down from the
but it's like third and I don't know how many removed, like you guys say it here.
Yeah.
But they, you know, their moms were sisters.
Yes.
So it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
No.
So I kept having that in my head reading his part, and I'm like, I don't know about this because we were introduced to somebody else, which we're about to talk about. And we were like, I think Aiden's going to get in the way. I think he's going to get in the way, and this is going to be a big thing. That was my impression. So their story kind of continues with Kale starting to work with them and finding out more stuff, finding out what these word marks are and the towers. Kale discovers how to
free magic.
Yes, because these towers that were built make a triangle, and that's what traps the magic. So you topple a tower down,
then everything will be released.
So he's got that knowledge, but he's not telling anybody.
No, because he's a hater.
Well, he just is. Yeah, he is a hater. He's a hater of the Fae. Not outwardly saying that, but he's scared of them.
So, he's a hater.
And then Dorian and Saoirse fall in love.
Bendito. I felt bad for I felt super bad for Dorian.
I feel like he falls hard fast.
I think she was there at the right moment. Yeah. I think if it was Scurly Maid that was there, he would have picked her. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So it, you know, it was something different that was there, and they had time, and he sowed his oats.
Yeah.
Bendito.
And the king finds out about this.
See.
And then the story ends with the king bringing Kale in, Dorian in, and this is where Sarah J. Maas, and
Aiden was there too. Yes.
And this is where Sarah J. Maas is the master that she is, because the last 100 pages, it's just boom, boom, all these mic drop moments, and
So the king pretty much tells them that
he knows
who Selena / Aelin is.
Does he? No, he doesn't.
No, it's been that. No,
he does not know.
Yeah,
but he knows.
But he knows that they're all working together. The three of them.
He knows that, and then he basically presents a situation where Dorian's going to use his magic.
Yeah.
And so then it just shows the king how powerful he is, even though he suspected it. And then poor Saoirse just gets...
Yeah, her head is removed.
Yes. And in that moment, Dorian falls apart, makes Kale run.
Yes.
To get out of there, to save him. And then they slap one of those dark collars
on Dorian.
Which we talked about the rings. We find out in this whole story that these are all like darkness. There's princes.
Yes. There's the Vogue, that the bad guys, they reside on those rings and collars. Yeah. But if you have a collar, then you get a higher ranking Vogue, so you get like a prince. Yes.
A prince of darkness takes over your body.
Yes. So they go ahead and they snap that into poor Dorian.
Yes.
They go ahead and they get Aedion, and then they put him in the he is in the dungeon.
Yep.
And then Broccolini runs like a baby. Like a little I'm being so good right now. Yeah. If you know me, you know that I'm being so good right now. Anyway.
So that kind of ends their stories.
Yes. It was very intense.
It was very, very intense. And again, we're kind of doing each storyline, but this
it's
it's intertwined throughout. So it'll read as Manon's story, then it goes to Aelin, then it goes to Doreen, and then back to Manon, and which was a little bit annoying, but I see how she did it and moved the story forward. Yeah. That was the best way she could do it. So Aelin is in Wendelin.
And she, when she got there, she was in a very rough space. You know, she had thrown everything to the wind.
Yep, it's all out there. Everybody basically knows, aside from the king, that she is Aelin.
Yes, and for her, it's also a very hard time because she has been for 10 years
running away.
She has been trying to look. I'm not going to. This person
doesn't exist.
Died a long time ago. I don't want to be her anymore. And she threw herself so deeply into being an assassin.
Yeah.
That, she has a hard time even hearing that name.
So she's got a lot of internal struggle that she's working through.
Yes.
And she's kind of poor pitying herself, knowing that she has to get over. So Maeve.
Yes.
Maeve or Mauve?
Maeve.
Yeah. I think I said it both ways. Yeah. The entire thing. Anyway, so Maeve is in that area. She knows where she understands the word mark. So Aelin has to get to her at some point and get those answers. That's what's in her head. Meanwhile, we get introduced to a strong, silver-haired
fake prince,
Rowan.
Ay, tan bello. As you can see by my face.
And we have been hearing this name because if you're on any kind of book
social
talk,
media,
you'll get all this. So I kept waiting for this Rowan character. I'm like, this is the one. What is this Rowan character? And he is the one. He is the best, but he is not in the beginning.
No.
He is a bastard in the beginning.
Bueno.
He is.
Yes,
he is mean.
Yes, he is
ruthless.
Mean. Yeah.
So he's sent to train her. We'll make it quick. He's sent to train her to get her to use her magic because we have to remember she's never really used it. Well, she hasn't used it in 10 years.
Yeah. And she hasn't been able because where she was at and Rifthold, that one.
Yeah.
There's no magic, so you cannot wield the magic. But he also, it's part of Maeve's soldiers.
Yes, their blood oath.
Yes.
He has given Maeve the blood oath, him and a few others, and that means he has to do whatever she says.
And I don't know if we talked before, when Maeve, or the concept of Maeve, was introduced, she is one of 3 sisters.
Yes.
2 of the sisters were, one is Aelin's descendant, like grandmother.
Or yeah. So there's Mab is Aelin's, right? And Mora.
Yeah, Mab is Aelin's. Mora is on
Rowan's.
Yes, but then and then we have Maeve.
Yes,
and Maeve is the only one of the sisters that is still alive.
Because Mab and Mora married an immortal, like a human, basically.
Yes, and they
gave it up their immortality.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit backstory.
Weren't they moved to be goddesses? No.
I don't know. It's
so super confusing. Yeah.
But in this, I do feel like Heir of Fire gives so much detail on all of that.
Yes.
We learn more, but it's complex.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And it keeps coming up. So again, this sets the stage for the rest of the books.
And it's important also for us to say that Aelin's mom tried to keep Aelin away from Maeve,
because she's kind of dark, ruthless. There's been wars before that she did not help with.
When Dorian's dad came and and invaded Terrasen,
Yeah.
she didn't send
She didn't
help.
send anybody.
And, you know, she had the Fae warriors that could have helped. And she stayed. She's like, no, sorry, we'll stay here.
Yeah. So there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So we follow Aelin and Rowan. He has to train her begrudgingly. So he's
not happy.
He is not happy, and he does not like her sass.
Mm-mm.
And
yeah, and when he got her, she was really
angry too. So you have two people that are just not happy to be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of back and forth there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of she has to do grunt work basically.
Yep.
I mean, he's kind of, I don't care if you're queen.
Yeah.
You're gonna scratch.
And he kept calling her Aelin, and she
just got mad.
She was super mad. She's like, nope,
I'm not that.
No, yeah.
So she meets who in the Luca.
So she has to work in the mornings in the kitchen, and she meets this in the place where she's at. Emrys.
Yes, I like him.
Me too. She goes to this like almost like a little port place.
Yeah.
And
Mistward?
Yes, and it's a lot of half-Fae people that live
work
there. Yeah.
Because Maeve won't let them into Doranel where she is if you're half-Fae.
Yeah.
So that's
only if you're super special. But yeah.
So she kind of befriends them a little bit, and then we find out too that her own mom used to work there too.
Yeah.
But they don't kind of let her. She's hiding who she really is. She never says. She even gives a fake name, which is the name that Nehemia had given her, which is really sweet. But they know.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just like, okay, we're just going to go along with this. Yeah. And so Rowan keeps throwing her into all these circumstances to just make her use her magic.
Yes.
And make her shift.
Having it.
We find out that every Fae has a secondary form.
Yes. Rowan's is a hawk.
And Aelin's is human.
Yeah.
That's her secondary form. So she's kind of stuck in human.
In between, yeah.
She doesn't know how to shift back to Fae.
Mm-hmm.
And so he throws her into all these scenarios. And one of the scenarios, he throws her into this place where there's going to be some really bad creatures that she's got to walk all the way through.
Yeah.
And ends up.
It's almost like a cemetery type of place.
Yeah, that's how I envisioned it. Ends up coming head first with a Valg.
Yeah, and one of the prince,
which we didn't know, and Rowan had never seen one before either. And we find out that when they feed off of darkness, and your deepest, darkest,
all your memories, everything that you have worked really, really hard not to think about and talk about, that's what they like latch onto. Yeah.
So they have her go through her memories of her parents dying, which we start to see that whole story unfold.
That was very, very hard.
That was very
gruesome
and
too.
And
we kept talking. We're like, why is this YA? I cannot understand this.
Yes, it was. It was really hard. And so we kind of start seeing Rowan soften to her a little bit in that moment. He kind of felt bad that
later on, but that first time
he brought her clothes and told her where she could take a bath at least.
Yeah,
which was like a little step. It's kind of like Manon. Like we start to see his little iced over heart.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Starting to fall a little bit.
It's true.
So there's that, and then she gets captured by these skinwalkers.
Yeah,
that was creepy
because she left. She got mad with Rowan.
Yeah, she had a hissy fit and stormed off.
Yeah, and then she's like, you know something? Because the thing is that Maeve was telling her, well, you have to train with Rowan, and when you're ready, when he thinks you're ready, then you can come to Dorindale, and then you can ask me the questions that you have.
Yeah.
Until then, you cannot. And Aelin is like, I don't have time, dude. I have to do this quickly.
Yeah, because she's on a timeline because the king of Ardalan thinks she's over there assassinating somebody.
Yeah. Which, never happens.
It never happened. there's a whole nother side story coming through with like Narek and these soldiers.
I never understood, those a lot, but yeah.
Well, Well, because they brought over the Valg.
Yeah.
Valg or Valg?
Valg.
Thank you. I have to rely on you because I don't listen to it. You listen to the audiobooks. And even so, I think if I listened to it, I still would probably say it the way I want to say it.
The skinwalkers are super creepy. Yeah.
They basically take the skin
of,
And I had in my head of I pictured, but in a more gruesome way, of Nightmare Before Christmas. Remember the girl who would always stitch?
Yeah, Sally.
Yeah. It's gross.
Yeah, no, I'm not good with that much gruesome.
Yeah.
That part.
That was very, some of that stuff was very Game of Thrones like. It was pretty bad.
But they go ahead and, little by little, you see that they are making a connection.
They're bonding.
Yeah,
for sure.
He starts to see her a little bit less as a petulant child.
Yes.
And he, and also she does a switch as well. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, well then, I'm going to start training more. See, after she's super nasty with almost everybody. So we get introduced there to one of Rowan's, soldier friends. Kadra, yeah. Mm-hmm. But we get introduced first to Gabriel.
Yes.
And a lot of things happen between Aelin and Rowan in terms of, and there was a time where I was like, so much training, okay, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Can we move on?
Well, and it was like one step forward, two step back with them, because Rowan would snap and say something super mean to her, and then she'd run off again.
Yeah.
And and we find out, so with Rowan, he has tattoos all alongside his face and down his arm and back, and we'd have no idea what this is. Yeah. We meet Gabriel.
Yes.
And Rowan is tattooing him. So it ends up being like, when they lose somebody,
or when they kill someone, go ahead and they
tattoo the sword.
Yeah. And they being Fae, they have to do this specific, ink
with iron
and salt. Yeah. So that way it stays and it doesn't heal.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of things happen. They find a sword.
Oh yeah, so that's kind of so Rowan figures out that Aelin uses her magic when she's protecting somebody else.
Yes.
So he sets up this whole thing for her with one of the friends that she makes, Luca, in the kitchen. He puts him in the middle of a lake, freezes it, and he's got handcuffs that are below the ice. And basically, Aelin has to go and save him without, we find out that her magic is fire.
Yep.
But she has no control over it.
Yeah.
So Rowan kind of figures out, but if you're trying to protect somebody, maybe you can channel it. And so that happens. She ends up saving him using her magic the right way. Mm-hmm. And then there's this another monster.
Yep.
A sea monster comes up with one eye. And and Rowan just happens to pull a sword out of this little crevice. Oh, look at this sword that's just somehow here randomly. You can use this. But she doesn't even use it.
No.
She gets out before she has to use it.
Yeah.
And then it has a ring attached, and there's some significance with the sword.
Yeah. She's going to be able to use it at the end of the book for something very important.
Very important, yeah. So again, foreshadowing, which we have no idea, but knowing Sarah J. Maas is like, there's something with this.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
And also, we need to know that when Aelin starts with the training, Rowan doesn't know everything that she went through.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know that, she was
in Indovir.
Yeah, and he doesn't know that she was basically pushed to be an assassin for 10 years. He thinks she
has no backstory on her.
He thinks she is like this, like spoiled girl that doesn't have anything to do with her life and is always complaining. So he's like, okay, so we need to keep working with your fire.
Yeah.
And there's a celebration for Beltane.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I need you to keep fire burning.
All these bonfires burning to a certain height and really challenging how she uses her magic.
Yes.
And then she ends up going into burnout.
Yes.
Quite literally.
Yeah, because she goes ahead and since she cannot control, she says that she hears the song of the fire.
Yeah.
And she's like
becomes the fire basically.
In depth to, she's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
So he goes ahead.
And so she's burning out basically, and he has to kind of cut everything. Doesn't he kind of freeze her or something?
No.
Doesn't he take her?
He takes her and he gets burned all over. Okay. So
his magic is ice. Yes. Fire and ice.
Yes. And ice and wind.
Yeah. Yes. So he takes her, he's got some healers there. They're trying to get her temperature back down. They're doing all that they can. And he's flustered.
Yes.
He's definitely flustered and he's worried about her. And they finally, after, time and time again, she finally gets to a certain...
They take her to this bath because it always ends up with a bath, obviously. It's like all the good parts are with the bath. So they put her in a bath. They keep putting water and water and water.
Well, and he's cooling it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so she finally comes down and she's by herself and then he comes in. And, when she was in Indovir, she was a slave and she was whipped. And so he sees all the scars.
And he's like, who did this to you? And then I died, okay? And then I'm like, take me, Rowan. I'm yours. Thank you so much. Yeah. She knows.
We all know that if you are romance readers,
yes.
The one phrase is, who did this to you? And he says it, and
he was
so mad.
Yeah, he changed into hawk form.
Flies off.
But
and then she did whenever he did say that, who did this to you, she said a lot of people. Oh. And, she says that she was the slave in Indovir and he had no idea.
But she tells him that later.
Yeah. But all she said was a lot of
people.
And then he guesses you were a slave.
Yeah.
And then he goes off and he's just feeling
He
terrible.
Is on his way to Mauve to tell her why didn't you tell me? You knew her background
and didn't say anything.
And he was so mad because he had just told her that he was gonna whip her
if she didn't get
her stuff together,
and she
lost it that day. Mm-hmm. And he is being very hard on himself because it's like, I've been telling this to this girl,
and calling her a girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Not really realizing
everything that she has gone through.
So he kind of has this moment of, oh yeah, I've been quite the bastard.
Yeah. But he's almost there to see Maeve, and then he turns around because it's like, well, if I go there, she is going to, maybe she won't let me go back to her.
No, he realizes that she's unprotected.
Yeah, but he thought, because when I was...
that too.
Yeah, so then he goes back, and at this time, Aelin is like, you know something? I'm done with the bath. I'm going... And then she's sleeping in this, shed of a place.
Yeah.
Horrible. And he's in this, super big, room with a fire and all that.
Yeah.
So she goes to the room to sleep, and then he comes back. And he scoops her up. And he's like, you're coming with me.
Yeah. And basically says, you're never going to be in this room again. Yeah. You're going to be with me. and then he becomes overprotective and is basically fussing over her for the next several days, making her
fuss over me too.
And after reading ACOTAR, in my head, I'm thinking they're mates.
Yeah,
they have to be mates.
Yeah.
But we also we find out that he had a mate.
Yes.
That was killed
while pregnant,
and that's why he's the way that he is.
Yeah.
Because of that. And so in my head, I keep questioning, well, can you have two mates? If one mate dies, does that kind of reboot and you get to have a mate again?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that was happening, having read ACOTAR, I was like, they're mates and they have no clue.
But I do really like the way their relationship progresses.
Yes, it's really sweet.
Yeah. There was an intimacy there.
Yes.
That was very beautiful.
It was.
Without that physical connection.
Yeah, there was no physical. It was just...
There was no physical connection until book like number 6.
Well, don't say yes.
Pero, like, you know.
Poor Yvonne. She had a hard time with that.
I know. But even with that, it was a beautiful, the way that their relationship flows and how, like you said, he becomes very protective of her.
Yeah. And their stories, they start both being vulnerable. So they're just telling each other deepest, darkest secrets, basically.
And he's very grumpy, you know? And it's not the trope of grumpy and sunshine, but, you know, you get a little bit of both there.
Yeah. And then... We're at 46 minutes.
I can't. This
is a big book.
Yeah,
though.
So
we're trying to keep our episodes down to more manageable, but this one has a lot of detail with all the stories. So they really bond. They and then just to kind of speed it up a little bit, war basically comes to them, Dornell, and at Mistward.
Yeah, because they keep finding Fae buddies around that are like drained of blood. And then they find out that there's an army of the Vogue. Mm-hmm. And the Vogue goes to
Mistward.
Yeah, Mistward.
So, and then... Rowan sends word to his cadre.
Yes.
Of, like, those are the blood oath sworn people that we need help. We're getting attacked. All this kind of stuff. And
he doesn't know if they're going to come or not.
He doesn't know. And then they've kind of got things set up to defend. And Aylin's kind of at the forefront with, because it ends up being, it is the Vogue that is coming. And it's princes. So they have the most power.
Yeah.
And they're kind of attacking, you know, the whole place is protected. It's warded
by magic,
but it can only stay for so long. So then they find out that there was somebody who leaked all the information and was kind of a spy or whatever. And so Rowan has to leave Aylin to go in and protect. Aylin's holding the fort basically, and then his cadre come.
Yeah.
And they see her basically buckling.
Yeah.
Nobody stops to help her.
Only Gabriel.
Was like, and she tells them, go and
help
him. He's by himself.
And then in that chapter, when the princes come, and there's this general too, you know, we really learn a little bit more how the Vogue and the princes, how they work together and it was a very hard episode, chapter 2. Yeah. Because, you know, again, she goes very into detail about her parents and how they ended.
Her. Yes. They end up capturing her and feeding off of her. So how Sarah J. Maas writes it is they're feeding on her. So then her whole story comes out.
Yes.
And it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And... within that, she gets down to the deepest bottom pit, basically, and then
she's ready to, like, you know, forget it. You know, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this for. And she also finds out there that the king had eliminated the 2 concentration camps that they had. And that for her, that wrecked her, because she had a hard time leaving all of them behind. And she was like, I was ready to go there, and free them.
Yeah.
So that was a very big blow for her.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's in that part. That's when she understands a little bit more
and understands what she has to do.
And now that's where we find out too that she and Rowan, they have a special bond together because
and before that though,
they talk about it.
They talk about this. What is it? Cardamom.
The cardamom. Yes.
Yeah, that it's like when people they have some type of bond where they can use each other's magic.
Yeah.
Intertwining, but it's kind of a fragile thing.
Yeah.
But when she's captured and she's going through all these memories, then she sees her child self.
Yes.
Reaches for her and then reminds her of who she is.
Yes, that was beautiful.
And so then she kind of just lights up and just completely burns everything.
Yeah.
And then comes back, walks back with, and joins with Rowan. Rowan slices his hand. And then before that, he said, I choose you too.
I know.
Because she had previously said, like, once she finally, when they were really bonding and stuff, she would kind of joke around. She'd give him a little kiss on the cheek, and he's all like, almost like a petty little, like, come on, get off of me.
And he always told her, you shouldn't get attached to people because
they'll be used against
that's
you.
what they will use against you.
Yeah. So she at some point says, I choose you to be my friend. And it was sweet. And so he says, I choose you to whatever end.
I choose you too, Rowan. Yes, I'm bello.
So together they blast out all the bombs.
Yeah.
They're done.
Yeah. And then they find out too that when the princes get them, there's still a moment when they're taking the princess out and you can connect with the person.
Oh, yeah.
So
like whoever
the host.
The host.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they figure that out that you can possibly free them of.
Yeah, and she understands that it's almost like 2 people are living inside here,
Yeah.
So then that happens.
They go to Maeve, Maeve.
Yes.
They go to her after, who is a complete, not a good person.
And it was very hard because Rowan knew that
he knew what was going to happen.
Was going to keep him there.
Uh-huh.
And she wanted Rowan to tell her some information, and Aelin didn't tell him because of that.
Yes.
Because
by blood oath, Rowan would have to say
everything.
So he told her to kind of keep secrets.
Yes.
Basically, he didn't want to know.
Yeah.
So they get there, and she asks her questions about the word marks. So we learn that there's 3 keys that open up the portal.
Yeah. And she knows where 2 of the keys are.
Yeah, and Maeve knows that she knows.
Yes.
And wants to tell. So then she forces Rowan down, and then for the twins, right?
Yes, they start whipping Rowan.
The twins hold them while Gavril and Lorcan whip him. And so, Aelin's like, she's about to cave, and Rowan's like, But of course, Aelin has a plan.
Yes, she does.
Because she had been learning about Maeve and learning stories from the people in Mistward.
Yes.
And found out that she had this warrior lover.
Yeah.
Who had this ring and the sword from the lake. And so she trades Rowan for the ring.
Yeah,
okay, you want this ring, give me Rowan.
Yeah. So, she went ahead and she asked for Rowan's blowed off oath to be gone. To release him.
Yes, that was exchange.
Yeah. And then after that, Rowan tells her, you need to
blood swear me right now. And
now, that. He's like, no. And he's like, yes, you have to. That part was amazing.
It was, yeah. So then they do that. And so Maeve releases Rowan in a very disrespectful way.
Well, no, that for him, she didn't.
It was an honorable discharge, but she did it in a very snooty way. She's like, I'm tired of you anyway, and whatever.
It's okay, we'll get him.
Yeah, and so he swears to her, and then they take off. Yeah, they leave, and they leave fast. Because
she shows Maeve a glimpse of how the world will be.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was the other thing. Before they made the exchange, Aileen grabbed her hand, and that still was kind of a weird thing.
How she could
show her, but she basically showed her a vision that she saw when she was captured.
Yeah.
Or no, from Narek.
Yeah, Narek, one of the Bog princes, showed her what she could be capable of if she had the 3 keys.
And so she kind of showed Maeve some of that to scare her.
And then they go and they leave and they say deuces.
Yeah. End book. Basically.
But she tells Rowan that he has to stay and she has to go back to...
She being Aileen.
Yes. Aileen tells Rowan to stay and she's going back to Rifthold because she found out that they captured... No. She doesn't. Yeah. But she has to go back. Yeah.
She has to go back and she has to tie up things over there. And Rowan can't go because he's obviously Fae.
Yeah.
And that's his form. And he would not be able to be hidden.
And then they end the book there.
Yeah. So.
And I'm going to do a rapid fire questions for Shelly.
Yes. Okay.
Because we forgot.
We forgot to do it last time. We're going to try to do this at the end of each episode so that y'all can get to know this a little more.
Okay. What's one of your comfort reads?
Ooh, my comfort read, Blood and Ash. It was Blood and Ash, although I think now it might be Flesh and Fire. Although, I don't know. Now maybe Throne of Glass.
Exactly.
Those are like my 3 comfort reads for sure.
I love them. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me a book that you never thought you would like and ended up loving it.
Ooh. This?
Yeah, this series completely.
For sure.
Yeah. What's a book that's overrated in your opinion?
That's overrated?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's so many books I've read. I have to go back. I don't know.
We'll put a pin on that one.
Because I really want to think about that one. My first go-to is probably ACOTAR.
Yeah.
And I do like it.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. I went into with another expectation.
Yeah.
So we respect all authors, and we are not the people that never talk bad on an author.
If you don't hear a review from us, it's because we didn't really like it, but we will never bash because it's hard. My sister's an author. It's a vulnerability to put your stuff out there, and it's a lot of hard work. So,
and it's a lot of people to please. So there you go.
Yeah.
What makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh? You make me laugh a lot.
My inappropriate.
All of your memes. All of your.
You're welcome.
You make me laugh quite a bit with your memes. I'll put that. Yeah.
Yay! And then, what will be your favorite reading setup?
Favorite reading setup is at the lake house. Either in my little reading nook. You've been there, so you see my little reading nook with the fire going. Our fireplace isn't working at the lake house right now, but if that winter warmed up with our fuzzy blankets like we had, and really when we went, us reading by the fire pit was amazing.
Perfect.
Aside from the bugs, because the bugs were attracted to the lights.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
This was a long one, but we had a lot to unpack.
Yes. So we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.